Alright lads, today I'm going to be doing a helicopter guide for War Thunder in 2022. I've done a few helicopter guides before in the past, but they're a little bit outdated now, so I thought I'd update it. Hopefully this video is going to be quick, precise, and actually beneficial to newer players. I'm going to cover how to fly the helicopters, how to use the weapons, and basically how to not just fall out of the sky on takeoff. So obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is get a rank 5 tank or a rank 5 aircraft. This will allow you to start grinding out the first helicopter in any nation's tech tree that actually has a helicopter line. So for example, the AH-1G here. After you've actually got a helicopter unlocked, I'll meet you in a test flight. Okay, so we're here in a test flight in realistic battles. First thing I'm going to want to do is set up our controls. Press the escape key and then go to the control section. Alright, so we're here in the control section. We're going to be covering the movement speed first. So you want to bind all of these keys here in the movement section, as well as hover mode right here. There's no right or wrong way to do this when it comes to actual key bindings, just use whatever you find comfortable. But feel free to copy this basically, this is just the standard helicopter setup. Alright, we've set up our controls, let's go over some basic flight. The first thing you need to know about helicopters is that their rotors like to stay at a pretty much constant rotations per minute. Helicopters ascend and descend based on the pitch of the rotors themselves. It is not the rotor gaining speed which makes it go higher and slowing down which makes it drop in altitude. This means it's possible to stall the rotors if you add too much collective at once, or too much pitch to the blade. For example, if I hold the shift key, which is going to set our collective to 100% pretty much straight away, it's going to stall the helicopter a little bit, and it'll struggle to take off. Now luckily, this is a light helicopter, so it will eventually get off the ground. But the heavier helicopters in game, you'll simply just stay on the helipad, so bear that in mind. If we land quickly, what you want to do really is to gently apply collective over time. This doesn't have to be stupid and take 15 minutes, but go up to 50%, let your revs per minute increase, and then go up to 100. Right, next thing. If we look here on the right hand side of our screen, we can see a triangle, followed by some lines. This is our altitude meter basically. Here it displays what our current altitude is from sea level. Here is our rate of climb. So we're currently increasing our altitude by 1.7 meters every second. And if we want to get that down to 0 to stay level in mid-air, we want to get this triangle roughly on line with this middle line. So as you can see, I'm not doing a terribly good job, I do apologise. So you can see there, we're kind of staying level in flight. However, in our controls, we set a hover mode. Now I have this on my keypad to the number 6. So if we press that and enter hover mode, the helicopter now trims itself and keeps itself pretty much level. This allows you to shoot your guns and do all sorts of helicopter stuff. But just be aware, it does leave you very vulnerable. You're essentially just hovering in one spot, so enemies will be able to shoot at you, and little Tunguskas over there, like that guy, will be able to tear you to shreds in no time. So it's worth learning how to keep your helicopter level just by using your mouse. Just like this, because then you can just gently turn the helicopter like this side by side and make yourself a little bit of a harder target. But just as shift increases your collective, which makes you gain altitude, control and decrease in our collective causes you to descend. That's not too complicated, is it lads? Now the next thing to cover is our WASD as well as Q and E. Now if you've played jets or basically any other plane in War Thunder, you know that WASD and Q and E does. Now Q is going to make our helicopter pitch forward, D is going to make it pitch back, A is going to roll to the left, and D is going to roll to the right. Then our Q and E keys, with Q we're going to yaw to the left, and E we're going to yaw to the right. Simple stuff lads. Right, now let's combine it all together. We're going to increase collective and point our nose down. We're going to keep this triangle roughly level so we maintain the same altitude. As you increase in speed, you're going to move your nose further forwards, or more up the screen, sorry. And just try and stay pretty much level flight along this road. This test drive map is the same on all helicopters currently in the game. So find one of these roads and just try and fly around treetop level. It's a good little exercise just to get a hang of it, really. Alright, so after you've been flying around for quite a while and your co-pilot has gone through several pants of underwear, let's cover the cameras. You know the drill, boys. I'll meet you in the settings. Did I say settings? Well, of course I meant control. If we go into the camera control section, you basically want to bind toggle view, sight stabilization, disable sight stabilization, external view, as well as the shooter view here. The gunner view, virtual cockpit, and then cockpit view. You can bind these if you like, but they are not necessary whatsoever. Now we've got our controls, let's get straight into it. Alright, so we're here in our shooter view, and you can see that we have a nice wide field of view here, and a crosshair section in the middle. Once again, we've got our altitude meter here, so we can value if we're descending or ascending while we're in the cockpit. And basically, we're not going to hit the floor by mistake, because we can use the collective still to increase or decrease. Basically what we've already covered, lads. Now, the two main keys that I'm going to be using here is crosshair stabilization, as well as disable crosshair stabilization. If we press Z, which was what I set to activate crosshair stabilization, we get 4 lines on the outskirts of our sight. But if we hover over an enemy tank, we get a tracking mode. Now, as I said, this is quite a high level helicopter, so this probably will not be present on an early game helicopter. Now this box here, this solid box, this is basically set to center of mass of a target. It's good if you can't really see what you're shooting at and you just want a solid lock. But if we press the Z key again, we now get a square and a circle. This allows us to move the circle around this box really, and it allows us to pinpoint where we want a target to hit. Basically, when we press the Z key, it's like giving us a gun stabilization. The camera is fully stabilized and it allows you to aim a lot better. Alright, I'm here in my swanky Mi-28NM. We're going to be going over the radar. This is quite an underlooked feature on helicopters, but it is well worth setting up. You know the drill, lads. I'll meet you in the settings. Alright, so in the controls we want to go into the weaponry tab. I know we're jumping the gun a little bit, but we'll get to the weapons next. It is well worth setting up the radar on helicopters, especially at the top tier. So our first one is switch radar search on and off. I've got that combined into my number 1. I do have a keyboard with a numpad on it, so that's what I use, but feel free to bind it to whatever you want. Next, change radar mode, got that bound to number 2. Radar search mode number 3. Select radar target to lock number 4, and then lock radar target number 5. It's that simple, lads. I'll meet you back in the game. Alright, so we've set up our controls. Let's go over the radar for helicopters. Again, this is a top tier helicopter and a top tier function. This will not be present on an 8.0 helicopter. So, number 1 on our keypad, turn radar on and off. It's just as basically what it sounds like. On, off, on, off, or off on, sorry. So we've now got our radar on. You can see here now it says SRC. That is basically just searching for targets. MIT, so it filters out the ground clutter. Basically the same radar that's in the MiG-23 MLD. Now, number 2 on our keypad is change the radar search mode. So if you look in this top part here, it says SRC MTI. We press the number 2 key. It's now switched to AA mode. Now this is air to air. Or air to air, if you're an American. You know how many comments I get criticising me saying, I'm from England, get over it. So we can see that our search cone is now a lot wider. This is one of the functions of the earlier radars. It covers a large area, but it doesn't really do it in depth. So it's good for finding the target, but not really for actually tracking a target, if you know what I mean. Now, if we quickly press the 3 key, it changes our actual search zone, if you will. So it's getting shorter and wider. So it allows you to concentrate your radar in different areas. And that's the same for all 3 different types equivalent on this helicopter. Now if we go back to the number 2 key, we now have A to G, or air to ground. Again, we can concentrate the radar into an area beam, or go it back to the normal one. Now, our number 4 key was select target to lock. Now this might be quite hard on this radar because it's quite small. You can see one of our contacts here, it's got 2 lines coming off it. Now if I press the 4 key, you can see it moving around very slightly. You might not even be able to see that on screen because of YouTube's compression. But it's basically allowing us to select a target. So you can see we've got a target selected here. This is the anti-aircraft gun on this map. If we press the 4 key and lock again, it's switched over to the right hand side. Press the 4 key again, it's changed again, and so on and so on. So, alright boys, the bit you've always been waiting for, the firepower. You know the drill by now, I'll meet you in the controls. Alright, so we're not actually starting in the weaponry section. We're going to go into the miscellaneous and find the switch NVD mode. We'll get back to this shortly. Set this to whatever you guys want, and I'll meet you in the weaponry section. Alright, so we're here at the bottom of the weapons section. We're going to start with the toggle cannon ballistic computer. I got this set to /, but again, set this setting and all the rest of the settings to whatever you guys feel comfortable using. Fire air-to-air missile, this is important if you have Stingers or another manpad type system strapped to your helicopter. I've got this set to my mouse button. You may not have a mouse with different buttons on it, apart from L, left mouse button, right mouse button, it's up to you. Fire air-to-ground missile, another important one, I've got that set to space. Fire countermeasures, pretty obvious what that does, it fires off your flares. We've already covered this in our radar section. It is kind of useful if you're going to use missiles with your radar. It's more for sim battles though, really. Fire rocket, another important one. Set that whichever you want. Drop bomb, 3. Not important for NATO helicopters, but it is for the Soviet helicopters. And then pretty much all these, fire secondary, fire primary, fire machine gun, additional large, small, all these can be set to left mouse button really. Again, another thing that's useful in Soviet helicopters, but not really in NATO helicopters. Now we've got our controls done, I'll meet you back in the game. Alright, so let's put everything we've learned so far into use, before we go into the weapons. We're going to try and target this anti-aircraft gun over here. So we're quite shaky right now, so let's press our 6 key and go into the hover mode. We're then going to press our Z key, or our R key, sorry, and go into our camera mode. You can see that we are a little bit shaky now. So now we're going to press the Z key, which brings up our sight stabilization. We're going to hover over the SBAA and press that again and lock us on. This means we are now fully locked onto that SPA. Even if we rotate, we are still locked onto that SPA and we are still targeting it. Our gun automatically moves to track it. Now again, that is an advanced feature. It's not going to be on the battle rate in 8.0 helis. Alright, so back in our shooter ATGM mode, we're going to press the X key. Now this was our switch NVD mode. Now if we press it, we now have a night vision, or a thermal optic viewer. This is very useful for acquiring targets, as their heat signature makes them stand out against a cooler background. This is very useful in Helicopter Arcade, as well as air realistic battles. And obviously ground realistic battles and sim matches, as it makes target acquisition a lot more streamlined. But for today's purpose, we're just going to turn NVGs off. So, main guns. Most helicopters, especially low helicopters, they aren't going to have a main gun. Usually just come with rockets or some sort of ATGM. This is the Apache though, so we do get a 30mm Bushmaster gun. If we press the left mouse button, it's going to fire. Pretty explanatory really, or pretty obvious. You press left mouse button and it fires. It's simple as that. I don't really know how to make it any more sexy than that. Now, this Apache doesn't have any unguided rockets, but we did set that to the H key. But again, set that whatever you'd like. But what the Apache does have is Hellfire rockets, or Hellfire missiles, sorry, and it has a lot of them. So now that we're locked onto this SPAA, if we press the spacebar, which was to fire our air-to-ground missile, you can see that one of our missiles takes off. And if we press the U key, we can actually track this, and it's going to guide itself onto that target. Now the reason it did that is because we kept our laser designator on this one. If we, for example, fire it here, but then move our tracker over here, it's going to move. So you always want to keep your crosser on a target that you want to kill. This is why it's so helpful to have one of these. So even if you fire this and then start flying away, you can pretty much guarantee that missile is going to hit even though you're busy flying off. Again, this is a late game, highly advanced helicopter. It is not going to be on the Hueys in the early stages of the game, but it is a very important part of top tier helicopter battles. This allows you to basically fire at an enemy while evading his incoming rounds, basically. Alright, so we're in our AH-1Z Marine Corps Viper. We're going to test out the rockets and the earthworm missiles. Now this MiG-15 has been violating South Korean airspace and needs to be taught a lesson. So just like actual jets in an aerialistic, we're going to lock him. And then, oh, I thought we could lead the target in this thing. It's supposed to be an AIM-9L, but it's not seemingly locking. Being got a bit temperamental. But, same as in jets, just get a lock. Oh. Then, yeah. Just get a lock, fire it. Now, I'm sick and tired of this guy spiking us with his radar. I'm sure you are as well. So with rockets, we press the / key, which is going to give us our CCIP, our constantly calculated impact point. It's just going to allow us to kind of accurately fire on the target. And we press the / key again, it's going to give us our CCIP for our 20mm gun. We press it again, go back to rockets. That's simple, really. So that's rockets covered, guns covered, air-to-ground missiles covered. I think that's pretty much it, boys. Right. But whoever you wanted to try flying helicopters without having to face real-life players. Well, if you go into the top left-hand corner, then go into custom battles, you can then create a session, pick the map of your choosing, make sure you have helicopters turned on, maximum BR set to 11.3, minimum BR can be whatever you like, enable AI vehicles, and then allow empty teams. Then apply. Then press ready, and then start. Right, so we're here role-playing as a helicopter pilot. Can we find an enemy to shoot at? Does anybody want to come and play today? I found them. Again, these are all AI, so they aren't going to be particularly hostile towards us. Which means you can do pretty much target practice without being shot back at. Nice M26 here. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. You can do whatever you want without getting abused in chat or... Anyway, boys, that's pretty much it. Spam helicopters to your heart's content. Oh, hey! If you can still hear my voice, then you've made it this far into the video. You made it all the way to pretty much the end, so thank you very much for sticking around. Maybe if you stayed around this far, maybe you enjoyed the video, maybe you could give the video a like, maybe earned a subscription, maybe? Anyway, boys, thank you very much for watching this far into the video, it does mean a lot. If you enjoyed the video, then please let me know in the comments, and if I missed something, then also feel free to abuse me in the comments, it's completely up to you, it's free. Anyway, sub for more awful, lazy content and half depressed as we kill a World War II tank in our advanced helicopter. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, boys. It does mean a lot. Good luck flying out there. The Tunguskers are brutal. Planes are brutal. And even you can get shot by tanks now in the laser rangefinders. Anyway, I'm getting off point again. So, good luck, lads. I hope this helped. Subscribe for more. Ta-da!